In this tutorial, we're going to talk about remote values. Remote values allow you to set specific information from a remote client, such as JavaScript, to a certain field in the screen. So you can, for example, increment or decrement numeric values or set specific strings. And I'm going to show you some JavaScript examples on how to do that. Now, remote values could really have a lot of different applications. In this example, I'm going to show you how to use remote values to set up queuing, to set up a teller, and to set up a scoreboard. The queuing application is normally used when you have a lot of people standing around and are waiting to be served on. So they go and pick up a particular number from a number machine, and when their number is up, they know it's their turn. So I'll show you how to set up queuing. Teller is normally what you'll see in a bank where people are standing in line and you have an arrow pointing them in the right direction when the next teller is available. And a scoreboard is something you'll normally see in like a basketball game where each team has a score. So again, you can use, for example, a mobile device to control the scoreboard, set particular values such as the score, the number of fouls. So I'll show you how to set up a scoreboard as well. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. So here we have a very simple presentation. We have an image of flowers and some RSS running on the bottom, and we have the now serving. Typically you'll see that like in a bagel store if you just have customers walking around and picking up numbers and waiting to be served upon, and once the business owner can serve the next person, he clicks on this button, this machine. But over here, of course, it doesn't have to be a machine. It can be just another PC or a mobile device or a tablet that pulls up an HTML website just like this. And once he can serve the next customer, you can click on the next, and this moves up to the next customer. Of course, you can also play sound if you want to. Just keep on playing next, next, or you can go previous. So very, very simple. So I'll go ahead and show you how to set this up. So I have three campaigns set up: teller, queuing, and scoreboard. So let's go ahead and review the queuing first, since I just showed you the demo for that. And you'll notice that I've set up a common channel. The reason why I'm using a common channel is because I don't want the numbers to get reset every time the timeline restarts. You can see my timeline is only 1 minute in length, and obviously you want the numbers that are incremented by the store owner to continue and progress up. So I'm using a common channel so the numbers don't get reset. So I went ahead and switched into the scene editor, and I'm looking at the now serving scene that is set up right now with just a simple label, now serving. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over from the components a regular label component. So there's really nothing special about this component. I'll go ahead and make this look kind of like in my presentation where I have this font that's just much larger. Put the value of 0, change the color, centered, maybe pick up even a larger font. And you'll notice that over here on the bottom of the label properties, I have a special according value called events. So if I select the events, I can put different events. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 events, and I'll call the first event next, and I can call this anything I want, just a string, and I'll go ahead and call this priv for previous, and set this to be add param and dic param, or in other words, add value to the numeric value or decrement the value, so +1 or -1. I'll go ahead and save my changes. So next we'll review the HTML configuration. Now this file you guys can host on your own server anywhere online or even within a local PC, and you can simply use it to increment or decrement the values just like I showed you in the example. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you include these 2 library files, and this will be both the jQuery 142 from this path right here, and then also we are grabbing the send command library from our server. So these 2 files you want to make sure that you have in your HTML file. And if you guys wanted to get the source code from this as an example, you can go to signage.me/demo/testq.html, that's lowercase t and uppercase q, to grab the same source code. You will need to modify a few things though. You will need to modify the username. In this case it's this16@ms.com, so you want to make sure that you put in your username for your login account. You want to make sure that you put in the password instead of xxx, and you want to make sure that you change the 74, which is the station ID. The actual events that we're sending, next and preview, you guys can keep if you like these event names, and the value of 1 you guys can keep as well. So the things that you'll need to for sure change will be the username and the password and the station ID. So where do you grab the station ID? The station ID you grab from the stations section of the Signage Studio. So here I switched over here to the stations section of the Signage Studio, and I have one station that's running that I actually send the events to. And if I scroll all the way to the back, you'll see that it has an ID of 74. And if you wanted to send this to multiple stations, of course you can just write a JavaScript loop that sends it to multiple station IDs. In our case, we're just sending it to a single station ID. And you can also notice that this particular station is running our queuing campaign. So if I switch back to my code, I can confirm that 74 is the right station ID. The username and password you guys can obviously enter, and you guys know your username and password. And the value of 1 means that we are going to increment by 1. If, for example, you wanted to increment by 2 or increment by 4, you can simply change the value. Same thing for decrement. We'll simply decrement by 1, and of course you guys can change the increment or decrement value. In most cases, I think you will end up using the number 1 for both. And that's it, we're done. We've set up this now serving campaign with 2 strings of next and previous by adding param and decrementing the numeric param for these 2 events. So that was simple enough. And so now let's go ahead and move to the teller campaign. So next we're going to check out the teller application. This would be again just like a bank where you need to tell people when the next teller is ready and available. And what I've done was I developed a very simple script in JavaScript, and we'll review that in just a second. And of course this could be running at the tellers so they can actually control this via their Windows PC or via their Mac or via their mobile device or iPad. So again, just a very simple HTML demo, and you guys can download it from this path over here right here. Again, make sure you just keep the upper and lowercase letters the same, just like in my example. And you see that as soon as I'll click on window 1, we'll move the collection to the next value, which will be a video with an arrow and a sound, as well as the label value will change. And again, same thing, when teller 2 is ready, he'll click on window 2 and we'll have a different video with a different value. So let's go and try it out. Window 1 for teller 1. Go ahead and put the volume a little bit higher so you can hear it. And then teller 2. And in case the guy was sleeping and he wasn't sure that it's really his turn, the teller 2 can remind him again. And do this all day long. And this will get boring pretty fast. So I'll go ahead and show you how to set all this up. So here under the teller campaign, you'll notice that I have multiple screen divisions, and I have set up 2 common channels and 1 regular channel. On the regular channel, I've put my collection. And on the common channel, I put the 2 labels. So I'll go ahead and click on play really quick. And you see the collection right here with the flowers. And then the 2 labels right here where it says now serving, and there's another label in the pink screen division just below that you can't see the value since we haven't clicked on the JavaScript just yet. Now let's review our setup really quick. So what we have here is we have a common channel just like before, because we don't want the information to get reset every time the timeline restarts. Again, for those of you who are not familiar with a common channel, when you add a channel, it could be either local or common. If it's a local channel, the information on that channel will get reset back to the default values every, in this case, 50 seconds. When this timeline is done, it's over. But if it's a common channel, the information on that channel will maintain. So in our case, we just want to keep the actual label information, so we're using a common channel. Again, you don't have to, but that's the recommended way. So next I'll go ahead and actually delete the collection right here so we can set it up from scratch, so I can show you how to set everything up. And I'll go ahead and delete this label as well. So all we have is just this one label that says now serving. This is just a static label. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and add to the actual yellow channel, which is going to be right here, our collection. That will show the default flowers, but will also show the left arrow and the right arrow depending on which teller is clicking on which button. So we'll go over to collection, drag and drop it to the yellow channel, extend it to the full length of the timeline. Let's go ahead and double click the collection component to load up its properties. We'll select the actual kiosk because we want to have the items and the events. So select kiosk. Now we have the events as well, so we can listen to events. The events again are going to come from JavaScript. Go ahead and make a little bit more room here. And we'll switch to items. And over here from resources, we'll go ahead and select our flowers. That will be our default item, the first item. Then we'll go ahead and select the 2 videos, the left and right videos. So we're putting all the content that we want to be able to watch and control in the collection. Next, we'll switch to events. And we'll add a couple of events. Go ahead and call this our event 1 and our event2, and again this could be any string you want as long as you pair it up with the JavaScript. And we'll go ahead and go to selected page, and again go to selected page. We'll hold down the target icon and select arrow left video, and again hold down the target and page 3 for arrow right video, and we'll go ahead and save our work. So now we've set up our collection. Let's go ahead and set up our label. Go to components, select the label just like before, put it directly on the comment channel, set it for the full length of the timeline, double click to load up its properties, and we'll go ahead and set the color and the font size. Next, select the events, and we'll go ahead and add an event. Actually, we'll go ahead and set up 2 events. So we're going to set event 1 and event 2, and notice we're using the set param, so anything that comes from the JavaScript for event 1 will end up coming to this label, and also if anything comes from event 2, it'll actually go up and appear on the same label. Next, we'll switch to stations and make sure that this time our station is going to run the teller campaign, and we'll go ahead and save our work. So here now we're looking at the test-teller.html sample file, and just like before, we're pointing to the jQuery library file and the send command. So all this is should be pretty familiar to you by now. Username and password just like before, and the station ID just like before. And as you remember, we set up event 1 and event 2 as the strings for the actual label as well as for the collection. And if I bring back the sample HTML file, you see that we have 2 buttons, window 1 and window 2, just like over here for button 1 and button 2, window 1 and window 2. And so when button 1 is pressed for window 1, you'll see that we'll send event 1, and when window 2 for button 2 is pressed, we'll send event 2. And so the label will change according to the text that appears over here, and the collection will pull up the video that matches the event ID, so either event 1 or event 2. So using this event 1 and event 2, we are able to bind the actual send command event to the actual screen and set the values. So all this should be pretty straightforward, just like our queuing example. And so we've covered the teller and we've covered the queuing. So let's go ahead and show you how to set up a scoreboard. Select the station and set the campaign to be the scoreboard. Save the changes, restart the player with the right campaign. So over here we're looking at the scoreboard, something that you'll see like in a basketball game. And we've set up a very simple JavaScript client. And the JavaScript client, of course, can run on a mobile device, and one of the referees can control the screen using his mobile device. And let's go ahead and bring this in right here. And you can see that here I have 3 values I can set. I can set the home, the guest, and the period. So I'll go ahead and set the home score to be 2, the guest score to be 1, and period number 1, and click on send. Then you can see the values were set accordingly. So let's go ahead and switch to the timelines, switch to our scoreboard campaign, and you see that we just have a full screen with a single scene. So let's go switch to scene and see how we set everything up. Switch to our scoreboard. Make a little more room here. And sure enough, we have the labels set up, period for this label, we have home for this label, and we have guest for our third label. So pretty straightforward. Then we've just added a clock right here, and just for fun we've also set up a countdown component that counts down the minutes and the seconds. So again, this is very customizable. In the back we just have a resource and image that of course you can modify and do whatever you want with. So a very simple scene with 3 labels, but again it's very powerful because you can control this from a remote device like a phone or a tablet. Now let's go ahead and review the actual JavaScript. So you can download this sample code from testscoreboard.html with a capital S for the scoreboard. And just like before, we have our jQuery library, our send command library, and we have 3 text boxes, message 1, 2, and 3 inputs. And we're sending whatever value is in test message 1, test message 2, and test message 3 respectively. The key to remember is that we are sending the home, the guest, and the period events. And whatever values we put A, B, and C, these values will get sent to the player according to the right event. Now keep in mind that in this case we are using the set value. So if you wanted to put something like, a name and send that to the screen, you can do that. So any value could be set, not just a numeric value. So I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and I hope you now appreciate just how easy it is to set up remote value configurations. So if you wanted to set up a remote food menu board, or a remote sales board, or even a remote building directory board, all these could easily be created, and you can allow others to modify the content through a simple HTML interface. Thank you for watching, and let us know if you have any questions.